Hey, everybody, welcome. This is Marnie, and I'm here today with Christy Johnson. I'm excited to share with you during this hour how to turn your book or resource into a successful group program. And Christy is the lady to help us with this. I'm excited to pick your brain, Christy. First, let me just introduce you. Christy Johnson is a domestic abuse survivor turned champion of forgiveness. As a relationship expert, soul health coach, and author, Christy's mission is to empower women to find emotional freedom in relationships. Her website is christyjohnson.org. Welcome to you.
Hi, Marnie. Thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm so excited to have you here. And we actually have never done this topic before. So I've been doing these for 10 years, and this is the first time. And I've had my own membership program going for probably almost that long. So it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And I'm not sure why I've never thought of doing a training on it. But anyway, your information came to the forefront. Of course, you're a speaker with us over at womenspeakers.com. And I was checking out, I always stalk all my speakers, of course. And I was checking out your stuff. And I was like, oh my goodness, we have to do this training. So you guys want to just grab a notebook, because during this segment, we're going to talk about 5 essential components of a successful group, 4 proven ways to create compelling content, the most important rule to keep your audience interested, why trying to reach everyone isn't going to work, and what you can do about it, 3 insider secrets to creating quality video content, how to deliver group resources, simple strategies to train facilitators, and the easiest way to establish incredible credibility. And Christy, now you built your group around a book that you wrote.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us about that.
Well, I first started teaching this curriculum, my husband and I, at a singles group at our church years ago. And that was before I wrote the book. And I have a passion. And I think that's one of the most important things to have when you're going to create some content. If you've got the passion, I think you've got everything you need, because God will equip you with the rest. But the passion to teach people how to live soul healthy lives, because in the church, we're all taught about spiritual health, but sometimes we neglect our soul. And the word spirit is used in the Bible like 456 times. But the word soul is used 423. So, clearly God's interested in our soul health. So before I wrote the book, my husband and I taught this group at our church. And after I wrote the book, I really wanted to create, there's only one of me, right?
Right.
And I found most of my healing in a small group environment with a caring facilitator. And so I really felt like my job was to multiply myself, to create some resources that women with a passion to disciple other women could take and duplicate, just all over the country, And so that was my desire. It started really with a message. And sometimes the message, it has seasons. Like for a while, it was teaching to our singles group, to audiences of men and women. And then when I wrote the book, that was a different season. And now the season is expansion. I love the scripture that says, spread your tent curtains wide, stretch out to the right and the left. And so I just wanted to create resources that were easy for women to take, that they felt like they didn't have to be a teacher. They're a facilitator, but I wanted to equip them with everything they needed to lead a successful small group.
And the book that you wrote was Love You for Love Junkies.
Actually, it was called Love You for Love Junkies is the name of the group.
Okay.
But the book is called Love Junkies, 7 Steps for Breaking the Toxic Relationship Cycle.
Oh, such an important topic.
Yes.
And you guys that's at Amazon, right? Love Junkies.
Yes, it is. And Kindle and print version.
Yeah.
And maybe someday I'll do an audio version, but I haven't yet.
I know it's intimidating, but you can do it.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and dive in. We got lots of stuff you wanted to share with us today.
Sure.
So let's start with 5 essential components of a successful group. So maybe just tick them off, and then let's go back and dissect it just a little bit.
Okay. Well, the first one I kind of touched on is passion.
Yeah.
And then I think it's so important to have some online resources, especially today. You and I were just talking about this before we went on air, that everything's online now, especially with COVID, and we've got to make our resources convenient for people to pick up. Then participant handouts are important, and video content and a way to package it, either physically or online, and a great message with a compelling course description.
Okay. Yeah. So let's start with that passion piece again, because I think when you said it the first time, I thought we got to just focus on this for a minute. I think that if you just are making a product to make money, I don't think that it's going to work for you. Even if you can make money, it will not satisfy you, because God created you for so much more.
Right.
So it's not that you shouldn't be wanting to earn a living or anything like that. It's not like that.
Right.
But it is got to be, what has God created you to do?
Right.
And that's what we're here to tell you. Whatever it is, the passion has to be there, that you really care about the people that you're serving.
Yes.
And that's your motivation. Because then, I mean, even like right now during COVID, you can imagine womenspeakers.com, that whole thing is based on planners inviting speakers to come speak at all their conferences and teas and lunches and brunches and all that. Well, we haven't been doing that now for months. So what gets me out of bed and keep working every single day is because I'm passionate about those groups, the planners and the speakers and the women that they serve. And so it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter that it's in the moment broken or shut down or whatever, or just in a different space, because God has called me to that work. And so I think that when the passion is there, the rest of the pieces, like you said, the rest of the pieces will fall into place.
Right. And then if God tells you to do something else, like he told me a couple of years ago, to pour out. In other words, I just felt so compelled that the joy that he gave me, it was my obligation. The only way I could keep it, like the woman at the, not the woman at the well, the woman, the widow in the oil, she had to give away the last bit of what she had in order for God to multiply it. And God gave me that word a few years ago. And so I made the video teaching series free. There's a lead generator on my website. So anybody that wants access to it can receive it. At least I have their email address so I can stay in touch with them and help them with, questions that they have about their group. But that's not a moneymaker for me anymore. Hopefully it is increasing my book sales, because, people are going to want a copy of the book for the group. But, if my motive was only to make money, then I wouldn't have been able to be obedient and still be content, like you said.
Right. And just to remember that he's your provider. So the other four then were online. We're going to talk about these kind of as we go through this: online resources, handouts, video content, and a message with a compelling description, which is really important. So we're going to kind of talk about that as we go forward too. The next one is 4 proven ways to create compelling content. So let's talk about the content that the group is going to be maybe supported by.
So I think in order to keep everyone interested, you almost have to create content that's going to be satisfying to people that like to listen to audio, or people that want video content, people that want worksheets. And so for a compelling group, I think we need great quality video teaching and some worksheets and a leader's kit, and package that all online somehow. The way I've done mine is with PDF Word documents that you can just upload to your website. So having all of that on a website, I think, is really important. You can do it by creating an ebook and uploading it to Amazon and selling it that way, but that's not the way I did my group. So, and with video teaching these days, so much has changed in the last 10 years. It used to be 10 years ago, women were content to listen to 45 minutes of teaching every session, and then, break into small groups. And, with so much content online now, compelling for our, and TED Talks are 20 minutes. And, now people's appetite for quality video content has diminished. And so like I was telling you earlier, I created these videos 6 years ago, and the videos were about 20 minutes long each, maybe sometimes 25. And maybe today that might even be pushing it. I think it's really important to look and see what other successful ministries are doing and copy success. But keeping in mind that people's attention spans are so much shorter than they used to be. I mean, you look at YouVersion Bible app, they tell you to keep your daily devotionals to 400 words. And people are just, they want it fast. Yep. So we've got to be mindful of culture but still be true to the message that God's put in our heart.
So I think the other thing that's going to happen, it's happening now. So with all of us having to shelter at home for such a long period of time, like you said, the appetite for videos is shrinking now because we've all been kind of overwhelmed by only video now for months. Right. And now we're all ready for interaction. And so you have to bring this component of the group conversations, even if you have them online, that component really to the fore. So you've got good content, but now let's have discussions. Let's have group prayer. And whether it's in person or online in person in small meet groups or whatever, to be really keeping that in mind too. What's the most important rule to keep your audience interested?
I would say nailing your audience's felt need. So can I give you an example of a recent book I wrote? Not Love Junkies, but okay. So I was at a writer's conference pitching my next book idea. And I was talking to my agent and just hoping for a contract or hoping for a representation. And I told him that I wanted to write this book, Controlled, Ripping the Mask Off Manipulation. And he kind of stroked his chin. He goes, that's kind of a small niche market. What else you got?
Wow. Yeah.
I was trying not to feel deflated,
That was what I wanted to write.
So I started telling him I always wanted to share my story about how I forgave my ex-husband after the death of our youngest son, where he was driving under the influence of several drugs. And he sat up and he leaned a little closer and he goes, my wife has never been able to forgive her ex-husband for his serial affairs. He goes, how about a book called Forgiving Men? And I was instantly, yes, that sounds great. I want to write that book. Well, as I started writing it and I found an editor, she totally disagreed. She goes, she actually at a writer's conference used my book proposal as an example for the class on how to target your reader's felt need. And she said, Christy, forgiveness is not the felt need. That's the surface issue. And she challenged me to find the deeper felt need, like what's missing in women's lives that need to forgive men who've hurt or betrayed them. What's the missing thing? And Marnie, it took me a while to figure it out. But one day I have this feelings chart. It's like a color of feelings. Yeah. And the opposite of what was missing was the freedom. Like, bitterness keeps us bound. And so that's why my next book, I finally nailed a new title called Free Looks Good on You, Healing the Soul Wounds of Toxic Love. And so it's so important to really nail down what is missing in our audience's life so we can best meet that with the curriculum that we have so that they can finish our course with new revelation. And it's not easy sometimes. It really took, I'm not kidding you, I came up with 40 titles for that book until I landed on that one. And, a lot of research, a lot of asking questions. So pegging that deeper felt need, like what is missing in the lives of women that we want to reach.
I love that. Well, a couple things really jump out at me. First of all, your humility and willingness to take direction. Yeah. First of all, you had to release the whole book idea you had and totally change directions. And then once you got the new direction, totally change the title. And that is just all part of being part of a body. Right. Where it's not just Christy doing Christy's thing for Jesus. It's Christy and the body of Christ doing a thing, through Jesus for Jesus. And that's really cool.
Yeah. So, another thing to create compelling content is, like, I think I mentioned this earlier, follow success. See what other successful women are doing in ministry, sign up for their newsletters. When you go to their website, there's always a lead generator, sign up for what you like and watch what they're doing, because we learn by watching success. Don't try to create something new. Copy successful things that you've seen other women, other ministry leaders implement.
The other thing that stuck out to me about that story was we just had Dave from Kindlepreneur.com on a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about spending as much time on your title and description as you do on your whole product.
Oh, yes.
You just modeled that. You spent so many hours brainstorming this and just praying about it. Like, God. Yeah.
Nailing down. Okay. So when you go to writers' conferences, they tell you to do your pitch, and you do a summary, a couple of paragraphs, then you drill it down to 50 words, drill it down to 25, and then drill it down to 10. And that is the hardest thing to write, is that 10-word succinct elevator pitch that describes. I mean, if you can do that, that's what's going to cause people to want to learn from you, because you've targeted their deepest felt need and they want that.
Yeah.
And it's the hardest copy to write.
And everybody's so busy. That's the other thing. When I go to YouTube looking for a how-to video on how to do a specific task, like maybe I want to learn how to do a computer skill or something like that, I go to Google and I type in the word YouTube, and then I do what I think I'm looking for in the tutorial. And then I look for somebody that can teach it to me in under 3 minutes, because honestly, there's that saying, there's that old saying, if I had more time, I could have said it faster, because it takes so much effort to get it down to a few minutes.
Right.
I mean, anybody can ramble on for 30 minutes and explain how to do this, but somebody that can get it down and tell me how to do it in 2 minutes, I know they know exactly what they're doing and I can learn from them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about here.
Yes.
Okay. So why is trying to reach everybody not going to work for us?
Because you can't reach everybody. Not everybody has the same felt need. And if you spread your net too wide, you're not going to catch any fish at all. I mean, we've got to really laser target who it is we're trying to reach. What's the message? And I mean, that's such a good thing, because sometimes we think, oh, my message is for everyone. No, it's really not. So knowing our audience is so important. Every writers' conference, every type of training for coaching or anything I've ever been to, we've always had an exercise where we had to create a persona of our audience, like
your avatar.
Describe, yes, an avatar. Describe them in so much detail that you even put like a little picture of them on your computer screen, so that when you're writing or creating your content, you have them in mind. You know everything about them, what their struggles are, what their demographics are, where they like to shop. The more you know about your audience, the more you can reach them, because you know them from inside out. So when you're creating your content, you want it to be like you're just having coffee with them, like you're talking to them and you're having a conversation, and it's genuine and you know them. So yeah, we can't reach everyone. Everyone has different needs. So that's a fallacy, thinking that our audience is every Christian woman.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you just try to imagine the different needs between a Christian woman living in suburbia with 3 young children.
Right.
And a Christian woman living in Manhattan in a walk-up who is in her late 60s.
Right. Right.
I mean, even though they're both Christian women, maybe their needs are very different.
Right.
How they perceive the world is very different, and how you would talk to them is very different.
Right. So it's like, the more you get to know one of your friends and you know what her struggles are, and, if she married or widowed or divorced or single, and what are her struggles? Is she, working or stay-at-home mom? Everything. And I mean, we had to create detailed personas or avatars. And that's so important. I mean, if you want me, I could share one of mine so your readers can see what I'm talking about and how detailed it needs to be. But
let's hold that thought. Sure. And if we have time at the end, we'll come back around. But
all right. Sounds good.
It is detailed. It's right down to how much money do they make? What kind of education do they have?
Yes.
What do they have on their nightstand? It's very specific.
There you go. And it's a great exercise.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. Because you then get very personable with your audience. Who are you? Who am I talking to? And it's not that that's the only person who you'll be able to talk to, because actually their moms, their friends, their daughters, a lot of people will also be interested in what you have to say to that group.
Yeah.
However, when you're that focused on who you're reaching, it clarifies how you speak and how you communicate to the point where it's very crystal clear and understandable.
Yes.
So what are the 3 insider secrets to creating quality video content?
Okay. So,
so the first one, I'm just going to tease you. The first one is looking at the camera instead of at the host, right?
Yes.
We were talking about this before we came online and how irritating it is that when you're doing some of these, you don't actually get to look at your host or your guest. You sometimes have to look at the camera, and it's so irritating because we're right here together. We can't look at each other.
Right.
But okay.
Okay. So for my curriculum for Love Junkies, I did hire a videographer, and a very generous woman let me use her home, and I, asked friends to come. So it was a small group environment, professional videographers, but that was very expensive. And it was also extremely draining because there are 9 sessions in Love Junkies, and each are about, 20 minutes long. So I had to prepare 5 messages for one shooting and 4 messages for another shooting. And that was taxing. I don't know how I did it.
God help.
But there are easier ways to do it if you don't want to hire a videographer. So one of the things that is brilliant that you can do is to start a Zoom meeting and start it with just yourself. And you record what you want to say. And when you're done, you click, of course, when it asks you record to the cloud or record to my computer, then you can edit that when it's finished because you've got the recording. So you can slice off the beginning and the end. You can use video editing software that's pretty user-friendly. I think if I can do it, most people could do it. Or you can add overlays and text underneath. But here's the thing that I had so much trouble with, even doing that, Marnie, is as a writer, I like to write out what I want to say, and I want to say it just like that. And do you know how many times it would take me to nail a message where I'm looking at that red dot there? Because I personally feed off of eye contact. That's how.
Right, exactly.
I know. And so staring at this red dot is excruciating. And then I can't remember everything I was going to say. So I was doing take after take. So here's my best kept secret is to use a teleprompter. First, write out what you want to say, and then I think it's called Easy Prompter, and a Z prompter. Okay. Yep. And so you write out what you want to say in a Word document, then you upload it to Easy Prompter, and then you can squash it so that as it's scrolling down your screen, your eyes aren't going all the way back and forth like they would in a Word document. And you can make it go faster or slower. And that way, in one setting, you can nail what you want to say. And it's so much easier. And so that way I can be looking at the screen and not have to do 20 takes. And so if you don't want to hire a videographer and you're just using, you're doing 10-minute videos or whatever, you can easily do that on your own. I would encourage your audience to get a good microphone and a halo light so that, your lighting is good. You can also use a green screen if you want, but just make sure your background is attractive. So for me, in another course that I created, that's how I did my videos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's so many ways to do it. You can do it in front of a live audience. You can take clips from a live conference that you led with the breakouts or whatever. There's many different ways to create the content. But when you're doing video, the most important thing is that there's not a lot of distractions. I think that if you could narrow down the most important thing, make sure that they aren't distracted by the sound, the light, the background, whatever it is, that they can just settle in and just really listen and hear what you have to say.
Right.
And if you can accomplish that, however you accomplish that, but I love that. I love the easy prompter idea too. And what do you use for your video editing? Do you know what the name of yours is?
Oh, I'd have to look.
Mine is Movavi. I use Movavi for mine. And I did have to have, so when I need help, technical help, either I ask one of my sons or one of the people in my life, usually young people,
Yeah, I'm
Or
looking on my
else
screen, see if I can
Or
find
else,
it.
yeah, sure. Or else, Upwork has people that can tutor you, as well as Fiverr has people that can
Right.
actually take your video and edit it for you. If you
Yeah.
give them very specific instructions, they will edit it for you. So just know there are options available if you aren't up to doing it yourself, which I know a lot of you aren't. So.
Yeah. So mine is called Wondershare Filmora.
Okay.
Filmora. That's what I use. And
If
it's,
I
you
can
can even
pull-
add like music in the background if you want. And there's a lot of different features that you can use.
Right. I used for a long time, Movavi is what I think I used on. Wait, is that what I just said I used?
I think. I was looking to see what mine was called.
Yeah, I use another one online too. There's some online ones that are really awesome now that do a lot of bells and whistles for you for like $30 a month or something. So lots of choices there. Okay, so how do you deliver your group? Actually, this is one of your insider secrets here, how you deliver your group resources. So tell us about that.
Okay, so when women subscribe to my newsletter, at some point they get, a newsletter from me in my autoresponder series that says, hey, if you have a heart to help women, you can sign up for my free resources to lead a group. So they fill out a form on my website. It's just, name and address basically. But then I know they've subscribed to my Leaders Kit list. And then there's a link afterwards. It just automatically takes them to the page where they can download the Leaders Kit, the PDF downloads for the participant handouts, and then all the videos are there on one page. Anybody can watch the videos, but if you want to lead a group, that you have to give me your email address, and it's a private private page on my website where all the resources are there. So that way I don't have to do anything. If they want to lead a group, they've got everything they need there. And if they reach out at some other point, and because some women just lead a group in their home, some lead a church, at a church, it just depends. So larger groups, I'll help them create graphics. There's a promo video on that Leaders Kit page also that's just like 1 minute, so if they want to show it to their women's ministry, that way they've got everything they need on that webpage. So they have to print out the downloads. At some point, if I do it again and I want to monetize it, then I would, create it as an ebook, not an ebook, a print version on Amazon, and they would have to purchase it. But that's not how I've done this group. So
this strategy that you're talking about is the same one I use, and I really love it. So when they get their email that says, okay, you're in, we see that you want to participate here, you've done what was required to get at all of these resources, whatever that step is, then they get an email that says welcome, and it links them to a private page. And whether that's it might be password protective, or in some way it's private, so that the search engines can't find this. You can't get at this unless you've gotten permission to get in. And then on that page are all the links to get to the resources. And it just makes it, like you said, for the person managing it, it makes it really easy, but it also makes it super easy for the participants to just always know, I can just go back to that page. If I lost it, if the cat ate it, whatever, I can go back to that page and get another one. And so you don't have to worry about continually sending new emails. And this can be a lot, it can get overwhelming fast, depending on how big your group is. It can be pretty overwhelming. But the other thing that I love about what you're doing too with your group is that you've got lots of different modes for them. We're going to, in fact, talk about that next here, is how to train your facilitators. So you've got some people, like you said, leading online, leading in a church, leading in their home. How do you get them up to speed so that there's some kind of a consistency in your program?
So the Leaders Kit describes all kinds of things for them when they download it. They've got, it starts out with, thanks for being a leader, and letting them know they don't have to be a teacher. They just have to have a heart to minister to women and to help them. And, so I go through so many things. Like, first of all, I kind of describe the layout of the course, so that they know what to expect over the next 9 weeks. They know the layout, and then I give them some ideas on how long should your group be. That's kind of up for you to decide, but I give them some recommendations, at least an hour or maybe an hour and a half. It just depends. Then I kind of tell them, the outlay of the group, like probably, have a welcome and then watch the video, and then you go over the worksheets and the assignments, and you want to share enough of your heart so that you kind of jumpstart the dialogue, so that women feel the more vulnerable the facilitator is, the more vulnerable the audience or the participants will feel in sharing their story. But if the facilitator, she creates the atmosphere for the group. And if she's very reserved and it's just all about, teaching, then most likely that's going to create the atmosphere for the group. So I really encourage my facilitators to be transparent and authentic. And then I give them some, help with how do you handle somebody that talks too much? How, and one of the easiest ways to do that, I think, is to kind of handle it casually at the beginning of the group. Say, hey, ladies, I know some of you really like to talk a lot, and I want to make sure everybody has equal talk time. So I'm going to put this little time what do you call those sand timers in the middle? If I notice any of y'all, hey, talking too much, I might just have to reach over and say, hey, let someone else talk, or just really the visual of you reaching for it can get your point across. So if you cover some of those delicate topics before group, it makes it so much easier than waiting until, oh my gosh, this person has talked the whole time for 2 sessions, and how do I handle it now? So we need to be proactive. And so the more tools and tips we can give our facilitators, the better. And, then how to handle the dreaded awkward silence when you ask a question and nobody answers. You have to wait. You have to be comfortable with just sitting back and waiting, because if you wait long enough, somebody will open their mouth. But so often facilitators will pitch out a question and they're not comfortable with that silence. And then they talk too soon. They move on to the next point too quickly, and they shut down the dialogue. So I'm going to talk to them about timeliness, making sure we're mindful. Start on time, because if you don't, people are going to realize, oh, I can be late to that class because so-and-so never starts on time. So we've got to be mindful of people's time. So we go over a lot of things like that during in the leaders kit. So just to equip your leaders with everything they need.
I am a part of several groups online, and some of them are so laid back that people get away with murder and it kind of ruins the group. And then others of them are so strict that it's like, wow, I can hardly breathe in this group. You can't do one thing without a leader coming in and smashing you. So I think there's a happy boundary somewhere here to have it be a nice place for both the facilitators and the guests. You want it to be a safe place for your attendees to come.
Right.
And that's starting on time, ending on time, making sure that people aren't dominating the whole thing.
Right.
Being vulnerable and keeping things within the group. All those kind of things are so important. And then just to not overboard on the rules for those of you who are rule makers, just careful, as few rules as possible to accomplish the goal of safety.
Right.
And, a loving environment. So it's kind of
flexibility is so important.
Yeah. Really is. And I love what you said about your leaders. So when I was trained to facilitate back in the day, it was teleconferences before we had video conferences. And I was trained that you will get what you model. So what the leader models is what the group is going to do. So if I come into my group for the first time and I talk for 10 straight minutes, pretty much everybody who talks is going to talk for about 10 minutes. But if I come in and I start with some popcorn praise, and then we go into quick, I give an announcement. Anybody else have anything they need to, okay, now how about prayer requests? Anybody else real quick, everybody just, it's interesting how the leader starts it is how it's going to go. So to kind of have an idea in your head of how you want this to look before you get going.
I love that. I wanted to write it down and take notes. You will get what you model. That is a good model.
It really was huge.
Yeah.
Because it actually isn't intuitive, because as the leader, you think that when you start this thing, you should talk for a while and explain all the rules and everything. But if you do that, you're setting the expectation that everybody opens their mouth. They should take at least 5-10 minutes to answer the question.
Right.
Yeah, and then you don't get very far as
Exactly.
hearing from everybody, depending on how big your group is. That's awesome. Okay, so what is the way to establish incredible credibility? I like that combination of words. When I was typing it, I was like, I love that.
Okay, so for my group leaders that want to start a group, I want to give them like some great videos, some great graphics to share. So I've created a graphic that all I have to do is change the words for them, like what the name of their church is or what time the group starts in the day. And then I can put the logo of their church there. So they have some great promo materials to present. And we can't always count. Sometimes the churches that do your groups, they may be smaller churches that don't have a great team of videographers to create a promo video or graphics. And you don't want them to have to do it because they're representing you and your brand. So you want to make a good first impression. And like it or not, people judge a book by its cover. So you want to make sure that you are presenting the mission of your group in such a way that it's going to create interest. So another thing you can do is to gather endorsements from prior participants. And of course, if it's your first time doing it, you're not going to be able to do that. But to be mindful of, like one time I had a videographer come out to one of my groups, and he set up a camera and made sure there was a great background for it. And the women already knew they were going to share a little bit and then, about what the group meant to them. And then he just expertly, clipped out portions of their, what they said and created a testimonial graphic for me. And because you can talk about your group, but when other people talk about your group, that's even more effective because you're getting women from a wide variety, and they're going to see themselves in one of those women. Yeah. So creating custom graphics, a good promo video, and then being intentional about gathering endorsements is so important.
That's awesome. So let's go back to the creating custom graphics. So the term I want you guys to keep in mind is templates. So what you're talking about is you got the background, you've got your logo, you've got your, swoosh title across, whatever it is. And then there's space on this template to change the name of the church, the date, the time, the leader, the location, all that kind of stuff. You have room but you don't have to create unique, customized graphics for everything that you do. And it's almost really important that you don't do that because you want to keep the consistency of the book cover or whatever. You want to keep it consistent so that as people see, oh, this church is doing it, oh, that church is doing it, or this group is doing it, they're seeing you, they're seeing the consistency. So I know a lot of you guys that are watching, listening, you have this in your head that you have to keep creating new every time. It's important that you don't create new every time. Keep consistent with your branding for your one product. And then when you introduce a new product, then you have new templates.
Right. That's a good point because you want to create brand awareness and people see something. Usually it takes 7 touches before someone goes, oh, Marnie's having this speaker training. Right. Exactly. They finally get it after 7 times. So we've got to be mindful about reaching out, and it feels like we're marketing. And I don't like that word, but what did Jesus say? Don't hide your light under a bushel, and even he stood on a hill to preach, so platform is, it sounds like we're trying to build awareness about ourselves, but it's not about us. It's about the message and the women that we're trying to reach.
Yeah, I really love it. And I always think that God is the best marketer. Yes. He has the most amazing marketing plans. And it takes my breath away how he reaches people all over the world in prisons and in, on boats. And he's just got people everywhere out there marketing the plan of salvation. If we're going to use that word, it's really just telling the good news. It's telling somebody, here's some information that can really radically improve your life. And I really want to share it with you. Christy, this has been amazing. Awesome content. Thank you so much for just sharing so much with us today. Before you go, is there anything else that you had wanted to share that we didn't get to cover?
I can talk longer if you want me to.
No, we're all good that way, but I just wanted to make sure that I hadn't cut you off anywhere along the way.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Okay.
I just think it's so exciting to be able to multiply ourselves and the message God's given us and deposit it in other women.
Maybe I do want to ask you one more question. Leading your groups that you've led over the years, what's been one of the things that has been the most precious to you as a group leader?
Hearing the heartfelt gratitude of the women and seeing the revelation that God's brought them through, seeing God open their eyes. You know, they're stuck in these toxic relationships, or they're struggling with bitterness, or their identity is so wrapped up in what other people think of them, and seeing them delivered from that is amazing. And not everyone gets it, you know. Sometimes you'll see a little bit of progress, and, you know, then somebody else is going to minister to them. And maybe, you know, a couple of years later, they'll, you know, but when you get to be the person that witnesses that revelation in them, it's so rewarding. That's when you know, wow, this is all worth it.
I think those moments are those Esther moments created for such a time as this.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Love your heart, love your ministry, and just that you shared so much great content. You guys want to check out Christy's stuff. It's over at christyjohnson.org, or you can visit her at womenspeakers.com. She's one of our featured speakers over there, and you can check out her speaking ministry as well there. So again, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Marnie.
Okay, you guys take care. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.